I guess the others are muted, right?
I'm sorry?
I guess the others are muted. I'm not muted, right?
No, you're not.
No, no way.
How are you?
Volume is high. We gotta get Paola to fix it. Oh, thank you, Stephen. I ain't touching that. I can probably, wonder, I could probably do that here too, yeah?
Yeah.
On this computer, okay. It's called lower the volume. I didn't realize that. I don't know the connections. I don't dare touch anything.
Oh, that was just letting us know that it's being live streamed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Liz from wherever she is. Hi, Liz.
Good morning.
Good morning, Elizabeth.
Did some people forget you?
We
Did
haven't
some-
started yet. People are just coming in.
Okay.
Yeah. I knew that.
There's also touch.
Huh?
Tech support as well.
We'll give it a couple of minutes.
I used to be in the sun. And the just let you finish it.
You're being recorded, right? Except you can't see them.
If most of the audience is on the computer, I'm wondering if I should,
Huh?
if most of the audience is on the computer.
I can't
Oh,
hear you
if
at all.
most of the audience is on the computer, it might make sense for me to look straight into the screen, I think. Right?
I still can't hear you.
Oh,
Sorry.
if most of the audience is on the Zoom,
Uh-huh.
then it might be better if I speak right into the computer. It's up to you.
I don't know. Payola and see what they, most of them will be, it looks like.
Yeah.
Which is, I've got to make some changes to my committee here because we have to be in person on occasion. Because we have Rezo, which we might need to do at our next meeting.
Maybe we could make a commitment to you for certain of the meetings. Would you like that? In other words, we'd look at the list of meetings and make a commitment for one or two. Or three, whatever.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting of the CB12 Committee for Concerns of the Aging to order at 10:34 a.m. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Miriam, I'm glad you joined us. Thank you. Nice to see you.
I was on the last one too.
I wonder why I didn't realize that. Okay.
I was, okay.
Okay.
I have to mute my
With this-
phone. I have to
with
mute the
this-
phone because I'm at work.
Great. With this hybrid thing, it's been a little confusing, so please forgive me.
No, it's okay. It's
All
okay.
right.
I'm gonna mute. If I have a comment, I'll unmute, okay?
Hey, Mary, this is Richard, who's a committee member, who's on Zoom right now and is on his way over to be in person as a committee member.
All right. Thanks, Richard.
Okay.
So we have our full committee almost in between in person and on Zoom, and except for Joseph, who's absent today. And James Bosley has agreed to take the minutes for today. Thank you, James.
You're welcome.
So let's do introductions. I want to first introduce myself, Mary Anderson. I'm the chair of this committee. Good morning, everybody. Rabbi, you are on Zoom. All right.
I tried. This is the best I could do for now.
Okay, but James is going to take the minutes for today anyway, so,
Thank you.
all right.
Guys, you called on me. I'm the assistant chair who is not able to be in person today. Hello to all.
Okay. James, would you introduce yourself, please?
I'm James Bosley, and I'm taking the minutes. Thank you,
And a member of this committee. Thank
and
you.
member of this.
All right. Liz, can you?
Yep. Good
there you
afternoon.
go.
Can everybody hear me? Good afternoon. Greetings from Jerusalem. I am the newest member of the committee, and I'm joining virtually with a valid disability waiver, so my presence counts for quorum.
And want to welcome Liz to this committee. Really appreciate her being willing to join us because we needed more people. So, and Liz is a long-term member of the community board, as anyone who knows her knows. So again, welcome. And I sure do love having you join us.
Thank you. I'm excited to work on this committee.
Cool. All right. Miriam?
Hi, Mariam James, committee member. That's it.
All right. Dory?
Good morning, everyone. Dory Garcia, Executive Director, ARC 16 for Washington, Inc., Treasurer of WICOA, and a public member of this committee.
Thank you. Carol?
Carol Weeks, Dyckman Senior Center Director, Program Director to be absolutely precise, Dyckman OAC to be precise, and I am a member of the WICOA committee and a member of this committee, and I'm very joyful about all that.
Thank you, Carol. Elizabeth Urena.
Hi, good morning. My name is Elizabeth Urena. I am the director of Golden Era Social Adult Daycare, and I'm a committee member.
All right, cool. And we have some other guests, and let's just briefly introduce people. Verna, are you able to unmute? Verna's having some trouble with her audio, so Verna Arthur is in charge of this area for DFTA. That's the Department for the Aging. Julio?
Hi,
Good morning, Liz, happy dinner, I guess if you're in Israel. Julio Bautista, I'm with the Office of Government Community Affairs at New York Presbyterian Hospital.
Alana?
Me, Alana Dunner from Riverstone Senior Life Services Executive Director. I did want to ask Elizabeth Urena for her contact info. Just want to say.
Okay, so Elizabeth, if you could put that in the chat, that would be great. And Lady, good morning.
Lady Jorge, Director at Star Senior Center.
Cool. And we're going to move right ahead with our presenter, Stephen Chang, who is the Director of Quality and Patient Safety at New York Presbyterian Hospital. Welcome, Stephen.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Hold on. Can you hear me? Yeah, good. Okay. I'll look into the screen since most of you are, on the Zoom. But it's a pleasure to come here today. I was asked to speak a little about all the, the triple-demic, all the different viruses that are flowing through the season, and what we can do to protect ourselves, and also really mostly just to answer questions that you might have. I'm a nurse practitioner by training. Most of my career has been in HIV primary care. Currently practicing once a week at the Nest, which is a community health center that belongs to Harlem United down on 133rd Street. And the rest of my job is as Director of Quality and Patient Safety at New York Presbyterian for their ambulatory care. So I'm really happy to be here. And I want to make this as dynamic as possible in terms of, what is any nagging questions that you have. So I'll start off by, there's 3 viruses that I just wanted to touch on. None of them are foreign to you. So just starting off with COVID, just a quick, sort of poll. How many people here know of somebody that got infected in the last month? Yeah. Right. So that's a sign that it's coming back. And, in the past, we knew it was coming back because people were getting tested and we had all that testing data. But now folks are, can't hear? Okay. Should I put on my, sorry about that.
That better? Oh, no, that's not gonna work.
Okay. So I'll speak up a little bit. Is that better? Okay, I'll try to speak up a little bit because I saw a comment that in the chat that it was hard to hear me. So the COVID, the way they know that COVID is coming back, besides the fact that everyone knows somebody that's gotten recently infected with COVID, is that they're checking the sewage water. So they're testing the wastewater, and they can test it for the virus. And it was kind of going along at a relatively low rate, but then suddenly it's bursting up. So it's really coming back strong. The good news is, as you know, it's not the same COVID as the first 2 waves, right? So the first 2 waves was very deadly COVID. This one is far less deadly. But it is still potentially dangerous, right? So also that what's changed is it's also more contagious, so it's easier to get. So ever since Omicron, as you probably remember, Omicron, that was highly contagious, and these new strains are just as contagious as Omicron. So that's something to keep in mind in terms of protecting yourself. The best way to protect yourself, of course, is still to wear a mask. And the N95 is, if you get an N95 mask, is even better than the regular mask. But any mask can really help with reducing transmission, especially if you are at higher risk of getting sick. The best way still to protect yourself is to get the vaccine. And as you heard, there's a new vaccine out just now. Should be able to get it at your doctor's office. If not now, then very soon, or at the local pharmacy like CVS. or other pharmacies will stockpile this vaccine. And you may wonder, why do I need yet one more shot? And the answer is several reasons. One is that the vaccine changes over time. So it's just like, the virus changes over time. So just like the flu shot, the flu that we had last season is not the same flu that we're having this season. And that's why they recommend getting a flu shot every year so that it covers the newer flu. And COVID is exactly the same, right? So COVID is changing. So if you want your body to protect, you against that new COVID, then you'll need to get the shot that matches the new COVID. So that's one reason to get it. The other reason is all those shots that many of us have already gotten, its ability to protect you from getting sick goes down over time, right? So if it was 6 months ago, a year ago that you had your last shot, then it's not as strong at protecting you from getting sick as if you were to get a new shot, right? So it is recommended that anyone over the age of 6 months get another COVID shot. And if you have a weakened immune system, you may need more than just one shot. But for the most of us, we just need this one shot to cover us for the COVID this fall. And the other good reason to get the shot is, while it doesn't necessarily protect you from getting infected, it does an incredible job at keeping you out of the hospital. And also there's some data to say that it protects you against what you might have heard of as long COVID, meaning that even if you get a mild case of COVID, that you can still, for some people, it's not common, but they can have complications either with their heart or their nerves or their brain. So there are complications even after mild COVID that a few people get, and getting the vaccine can help you protect you against getting long COVID. So you might say, well, the chance of getting severe disease is very low, but then even if you get mild disease, there's a few people that can get this long COVID. And then the last reason to get it is that if you get infected, or it might protect you from getting infected, it's not super effective at that. But even if you get infected, the amount of virus that you carry around is lower, so you're less likely to spread it. So it'll help protect other people as well. So those are that's a lot of information about the current COVID situation. I also would be happy to speak a little bit about RSV because there's a lot of information about that. But before I do that, I just wanted to see if there are any questions related to anything that I've said so far, or you have any burning questions related to COVID or COVID vaccine. Okay.
Does anybody have any questions? Raise your hand.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
This wastewater testing, where is that done?
So so the question was, where is the wastewater testing done? It's done throughout the state of New York. And in the city, you can actually look, if you Google New York City wastewater COVID, then you'll see a map. And you can zoom in and it'll tell you exactly where in the city that they're testing it. But there's several locations that sort of cover the various boroughs, and you can tell borough by borough which ones are higher or lower. Right now, they're all high.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Liz.
Liz has a question, right?
Yes.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the advisability or the lack of advisability on getting multiple vaccines at once, like coupling COVID with flu, with RSV, with whatever else? I've gotten conflicting information from healthcare professionals on that.
It's not surprising that you've gotten conflicting information. So the CDC's official statement is that the flu, the RSV, and COVID, you can get all at once. And I'll talk a little bit more about RSV. But for sure, 100% getting flu and COVID at the same time is totally fine. And that's been done a lot, right? The RSV vaccine is a little bit newer. So the RSV vaccine, for those that don't know, so RSV is also a common cold virus, but for vulnerable populations, it can make you very sick. And especially for little kids under the ages of 8 months. And then for some adults over the age of 60, especially if you have a weakened immune system. So you can get quite ill from RSV. RSV is respiratory syncytial virus. I always have trouble pronouncing it. And they have a new vaccine. There's actually 2 of them that for over the age of 60, if you get either one of these, it reduces your risk of severe disease or getting pneumonia, which is a complication from RSV, by over 80% for this season. And even carrying over to the next season, it'll be at least 50% effective. So and the safety is quite good. The only thing that they're watching is they saw some cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is where the immune system affects the nerves, where you can get fatigue and you can get weakness, and often it's transitory. And they don't know for sure if that was just coincidental or if that was due to the vaccine, and they're going to be collecting more data on that. That's why when you're getting the RSV vaccine, they recommend that you do it as a quote shared decision-making with your primary care provider or a provider. So you have a discussion about what's my personal risk, what's the possible risk of RSV because it's a relatively new vaccine, and make a decision whether or not you want to get it. Now, the reason I've said all of that in terms of the timing, some infectious disease specialists think it might be better to space the RSV vaccine about 2 weeks away from the other vaccines, just in case you get some, because flu vaccine can give you some side effects, right? It's, you might get mild flu-like symptoms. It's still a lot less dangerous than getting the flu, right? So flu vaccine is incredibly safe. Every year, tens of thousands of people die from influenza every year. So it's very important to get the flu shot. COVID vaccine can cause mild symptoms as well. And then the RSV can cause mild symptoms. So if you're getting all 3, you don't know what's causing what. You can certainly do it, and it's all probably very safe, right? But again, the RSV is a little bit newer. So some infectious disease specialists are saying keep them a little bit separate. The other discussion that's going on, and I don't know if they have a lot of good data, is they wonder if getting them all at once makes it so that your immune response to the RSV vaccine or to any of them goes down a little bit because you're trying to teach your body to recognize 3 viruses all at once. So it's kind of like, when we take our final exams, do we want them all on the same day? Maybe we want another one, another day. So there's some debate about that. So it's the CDC recommends that you can get them all 3 at the same time. So I think there's enough data to suggest that it's a safe thing to do, but it's totally reasonable to discuss with your provider whether it makes sense to get the flu and the COVID one day and then 2 weeks away get the RSV. Yeah, good question.
Any other questions from the committee?
Yeah.
Liz, you have another?
Yeah. Is the hospital planning on doing COVID vaccines, flu vaccines as community events? Because we could kind of use that as a community service, and the hospital was great in providing that service early in COVID.
Yeah, so for flu vaccine, yes. There's a nurse, Debbie Acevedo, who is wonderful. She's one of the main coordinators of sort of these flu vaccine hubs in the community, especially for the uninsured, right? So it's really geared towards people that don't have access to care because, you know, many people have access to their primary care provider or can get it through the local pharmacy. So we have multiple, yeah, and there's one that's in this neighborhood, which I believe is next Tuesday, which I will be personally vaccinating at Hebrew Tabernacle. It's a flu event, and that's from starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, going till 1 in the afternoon. So, so I know you're in Jerusalem, so that might, I don't know if you can do back, but so the Hebrew Tabernacle is going to be hosting that event. Now with COVID vaccine, we're unable to do that as big community events anymore. So that we have COVID vaccines available at all our primary care practices for those that are receiving primary care at those practices. And then as far as people that are not receiving care at those practices, then they should go to their local primary care provider or, and I'm not sure if there are urgent care centers that are doing this, but at least, you know, it should be available widely in just regular primary care practices, just like the flu shot. Yes.
Alana?
Alana?
Yeah, just wondering, what is the best time to get the flu shot? So it's covered the whole 6 months or whatever it is?
Good question. So for people that are higher risk, so they're recommending those that are, you know, in their 60s, you might actually want to, well, it's getting close to now, actually. You don't want to get it super, super early because every year, many years, there's 2 spikes, right? So there's an earlier spike of flu and then there's a later spike of flu. And sometimes if you get it right when it's available, which have been already, you know, in September, then it might not be as strong for the second peak. So it might be a little bit less protective in the spring. So some people say delay a little bit, but you also don't want to wait too long because you want to be protected for that first spike. So right now is actually, you're kind of in the window already. So October, November, if you get your shot, then that should work pretty well. And also if you're over, I got to remember this, I think you're over 65, you're going to get the higher dose, right? Because your body's ability to mount an immune response, a strong response to the vaccine is a little bit lower. So to compensate for that, they give you a higher dose that will last you longer and be stronger to protect you. Yeah. Any other?
So just a point of information that Liz put in the chat is that fortunately we're able to get vaccinated in a chain drugstore. And I know that the Rite Aid on 171st and Broadway is providing both flu and COVID vaccines and RSV. So, and the insurance covers it.
That's
Medicare.
That's great.
Anyone else? Any of the attendees have any questions?
Another comment that Walgreens, CVS also doing vaccinations from Liz. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like there are any more questions.
Okay.
And Liz asked the one that, of course, I asked at the last presentation I was at, so we got that covered.
Great. Okay, so I really.
And I think,
appreciate
you
meeting
know,
with everyone.
just comment, I know for myself, I've found through the years that getting the flu vaccine, if I get it too early, I get the flu in the spring. So my window is like around the 3rd week of October. So, you know, and I know that if I get it, like I say, if I get it, say the end of September, it's guaranteed I get it in the spring. And
yeah, that's good advice.
I don't want it. So
No,
it's all very individual depending on your body and how you react to it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, and always happy
And
to
Liz
come
is
back.
just reminding us that, you know, in most places you need an appointment for those pharmacies.
Yes, right.
So,
So they don't get overrun.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, and think about getting that RSV vaccine, even though it's new, talk to your providers about it, because that will, if you're over
Yep.
60, getting RSV is no fun if you get really sick by that.
And I think particularly with people whose health is compromised, like I have asthma, so,
Yes, yeah, for sure.
and over 60.
Okay, it's really nice coming back here. I've been here years ago talking about HIV related stuff, so I'm really happy to return. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
it's nice to hear your presentation for the second time.
Thank you.
Very much, Stephen.
Thank you.
All right,
Get another Zoom.
okay. All right, so the next item on our agenda is the capital and expense budget. We talked about all of that somewhat at our last meeting, and people wanted to think a little bit more about all of the items, and I did talk with people at least one of the senior centers, at the Star Senior Center, to talk about the second item on our capital budget. Do you all have access to these items? Probably not. Let me see if trying to figure out. I can probably screen share, but I have to figure out how to do it. Let's see if I get Paola.
Okay, I'll get her.
Thank you.
Mary, if you
Yes.
open up the file on your computer, and then if you hit the green button that says screen share, it'll show your screen, and then you can select what it is that you want to share.
Okay,
So
so
it's
share,
that green button at the bottom that says share
Share.
screen.
okay,
And if you do that, it should show everything that's on your screen, and you can pick whatever open window you want to share. So you would have to have the file open on your computer in order to do the screen share.
so should I click on files?
You could.
Oh, hold on, Paola's coming. Hang on. No, I want to try to screen share the budget stuff.
Hey, Paola.
Hi. Yeah, you're there. You only have to hit this button.
Oh,
You're sharing. Now, where's the document you want to share? Wait, let's stop this. Where do you have the document you want to open?
Where do I have?
Can whoever's coughing please put themselves on mute?
¿Hace cuánto te está dando agua? ¿Hace cuánto hay un equipo dominicano radical en Puerto Rico jugando allá? Vamos a conocer más de Caribe Urbana.
Richard, can you please put yourself on mute? Success. Can you possibly make it a little bigger, though? If you hit on the top of your screen, you'll see a plus and a minus sign. Yep. Just click that plus sign that you were hovering over a moment ago. Yep, right there. Sweet, thanks. Mary, you're muted.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
This is not my computer, so I'm just not used to it. Anyway, system-wide upgrade of CB12 area to improve access to connectivity and Wi-Fi. The second thing on the list is renovate as necessary, specifically Star Senior Center and Rain Edward Senior Center to comply with safety and ADA and DIFTA regulations. And the third item is provide funding to construct affordable, accessible senior housing. Those items were ranked by the committee, number 1, number 2, and number 3 in that order. I checked with Lady at the Star Senior Center, and she certainly felt that it was important to keep that on, because even though DIFTA has approved some improvements, it's not completely ADA accessible. There are other things that need to be done in order to comply. Is there anyone, Liz, on the committee that has anything to say about any of these 3 items, or has?
Yeah. Yeah,
Go
one of the things that I'm curious about, and this is sort of an issue every year with different items when we do our budget rankings, is there are times that different committees have essentially the same recommendation. And since we have a limit in the number of projects that we can ask for, and the number of programs that we can ask for, and the number of things that our elected officials are really going to, we might have 75 projects and 50 programs, but they're not all going to get funded. So we really need to make sure that our top priorities are reflected in, probably 24 projects and 12 programs or something like that. So I'm just curious on the extent to which the housing, which is tremendously important, sort of resides, pun intended, with a compatible item from the Housing Committee. And if it makes sense to just have one item that comes under the Housing Committee, but that says housing and includes carve-outs for seniors. Similarly, I believe that Parks has had calls for Wi-Fi, and the Youth and Education Committee have sometimes had calls for Wi-Fi, and Housing and Human Services have sometimes had calls for Wi-Fi. So it seems like we might do better if we have one kind of, hey, we need more Wi-Fi uptown item, rather than isolated pockets of 4 different requests.
As I recall, we talked about something with the affordable, accessible senior housing at some point last year, and felt that it was, since it was under Housing and Human Services as well, that it better, it was better suited to be on that committee, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think, I agree that we need to have it one or the other, not both. And as you can
Yeah.
see, it ranked 2 different, it's interesting that, it ranked number 2 under housing, and it ranked number 8 under the Aging Committee. So,
Right. So I really feel like we're kind of diluting our ask. And I think that if, I just think it's silly to have the item be twice. And even though this is the Aging Committee, I feel like stuff related to housing should come under the Housing Committee, because for the most part, it's going to be HPD that's funding it. Like DIFTA just doesn't have DIFTA has a funding stream that will cover senior programming in publicly funded housing, but they don't really have a meaningful funding source for senior housing. So I just feel like we're wasting a priority in having that as an item. By that, I do not mean it's unimportant. It's incredibly important, but I think we're going to have the strongest voice if we advocate for this item through housing. in terms of Wi-Fi, I think we're going to have the strongest voice if we advocate for Wi-Fi through aging, because the Parks Committee has, like 27 capital projects, and that always gets lost. So I would keep Wi-Fi under this committee, but I would, have the minutes reflect that as a committee, we think it's a huge priority, but we think it should go through housing, and have a side conversation with Marielle about that.
And this is also reflected in the register, the executive budget register, that the responsible agency is HPD. So I think you're right. I think it needs to be under housing rather than under aging. Anybody, is there anybody that disagrees with that?
No, as someone who deals with aging way too much, it sounds right on target.
Okay.
Do you still need me to share that document?
Huh?
Do you still want that document up? Okay.
Okay, so we want to therefore take this off of the aging committee, right?
Yeah.
Give it to housing 100%. Okay.
And then that said, it feels like it makes sense for those two priorities to stay in the order that they had been, with Wi-Fi first.
All right. Is
The
anybody-
upgrade to the senior centers are really important, but I feel like, with that conversation we had earlier, for example, about getting appointments for vaccines, people need Wi-Fi to do that.
Right.
These days, people need Wi-Fi for so much.
Right. Right. Any other committee member have anything to add about any of these, about the other two items?
I'm just curious, how does that get worked out? I mean, did the committee chairs meet and discuss, or is it something the executive committee sorts out?
These items go to the district manager, okay? And, initially, I'm saying, the committee submits their items to the district manager, who then has a committee, or correct me if I'm wrong, Liz, I mean, this is just a general kind of thing, and comes up with these long lists that have every committee's items on it. And then every community board member ranks all whatever number of items there are on this list.
Right. Can I speak to that a little bit?
Please, you've been the
yeah. So for a long time, as secretary, I was responsible for working with the district manager on compiling the lists from the different committees. So Mary's absolutely right. Each of the committees comes up with their own list. And then to the extent that there's overlap on items, usually the committee chairs will have conversations with each other that are either, we both have this item, do you want to list it, or should my committee list it? Or, sometimes parks will have an issue about lighting, which really comes under DOT. So that's, even though it's in a park, it goes through the Traffic and Transportation Committee. And if there's something that relates to public safety in parks, even though it's in a park, because it's a public safety thing, it'll go through the Public Safety Committee. So a lot of those things will get worked out in the Executive Committee, which is typically scheduled on the calendar to happen after all of the committee meetings and right before the budget priority hearing. So each of the committees does what they do, and then to the extent that there's overlap, that gets cleaned up during exec, so that when we vote on stuff as a full board at the board budget hearing, hopefully there isn't a lot of redundancy or overlap. Some years we get it better than others. Sorry, that was a long answer to a short question.
That's okay. Important for new people as well to understand that process. Okay, now, the other question I have is there anything that anybody else thinks should be added under the capital requests? Or do we think that's sufficient, those 2 items? Hearing nothing and seeing no hands.
Mary,
I guess we will,
Mary, just
yes,
quick
Richard.
question over here. I'm looking at number 2. Very supportive of the renovations of Star Senior Center and Rain Inwood Senior Center. I'm just wondering if we've had conversations with any of the
Yes,
senior
absolutely.
centers and
I had a conversation with the
comprehensive.
lady,
Okay.
the director of the Star Senior Center, and she feels that definitely should
No,
continue on this list.
no. Have we had the conversations with people who aren't on this list? Have we done something to survey the overall needs of senior center? I mean, I work
Well, I
for
brought
one.
it, yes,
that
I mean, I
doesn't-
brought
that
it up at
doesn't-
Waikoa as well. So,
That's fine.
yeah, and all of the senior center directors are usually at Waikoa. There are a few on
All,
this meeting today too. We
all
have
good.
several of the centers represented.
I wanted to make sure my question wasn't about me and us.
No.
We don't need to be there.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on. Oh, God, let's see, Paola, what did you do to me here? Liz, how do I switch over to the expense budget?
I think if you open up the document that has the capital budget should have
Hold
a
on,
tab.
hold on. Paola's back.
So I can take it off the screen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're over to the
We need the
expense.
expense budget up now.
There we go.
Great. And if you could just hit that plus sign a couple of times to make it a wee bit bigger.
Yeah. Okay, that looks good, yeah,
Yeah,
Oh.
that's good.
there we go. All right, so funding for free Wi-Fi access for seniors in CB12. M should be there. Increase access and outreach to healthy, culturally appropriate food for seniors with medical needs. Increase the expansion of the program, expanded in-home services for elderly person funding to provide affordable home care, including sliding scale reimbursement. Increase funding for senior transportation programs by restoring prior city council funding and expanding access and outreach. And increase OTPS, that's other than personal expenses, funding for replacement furnishings and senior centers as needed.
I have a question about Wi-Fi.
Okay,
So I know that there are certain aspects of Wi-Fi that are capital because, you know, it's durable infrastructure that lasts for more than 5 years and it costs more than $50,000. To what expense is Wi-Fi considered an expense rather than a capital item? I don't want to sound like, I mean, I totally support Wi-Fi, but I think it's a capital item, not an expense item. And I think we should remove that. I mean, not because it's not important, but just because if you look at the register, the OMB probably rejected this item on the grounds that it's a capital item, not an expense item. I'm not sure because I'm not looking at it.
well, see, where's my? You know, it's on this budget register, it says the funding for, it says that the responsible agency is DIFTA.
Okay.
So,
I mean, if it's an allowable expense item, then by all means, it should stay on there.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because you know, we're asking for free Wi-Fi access for seniors because a
I
lot
see.
of seniors can't afford it. You know, so
Does it make sense to just flag for Ebenezer to please check and make sure that it is eligible as an expense item? And if it is, keep it in there with whatever ranking we give it. And if it turns out that it's not an allowable expense item, just remove it and re-rank everything accordingly.
so would we want to put it under capital if it's not?
It's already under capital in terms of expanded Wi-Fi.
Right, but it's not, that has nothing to do with free Wi-Fi access for seniors. There's a difference there.
I mean, not really, because the capital expense of having Wi-Fi is the same whether you're charging people for it or not.
Yeah, good point.
So I think we can leave capital the way it is, and I think just let's rank it with all of the other things, and then just have Ebenezer check to make sure that it's an eligible expense item. And if it is, then we have these 5 items, and if it's not, it gets deleted and we have 4 items that are perhaps renumbered accordingly.
Yeah, that makes sense. If any of the committee members have, you know, or anybody else has thoughts about any of this, please, let me just see something.
Yeah, I have a question. The capital budget item for the Wi-Fi improved access, are we talking about the construction of the towers? Are we talking about the lines that go into homes or facilities? What am I looking at? What is the visual thing that's going to be constructed to help this Wi-Fi that makes it a capital item? Does that question make any sense to anyone?
It's both. I think when we talk about increasing Wi-Fi access with targeted groups, we're generally talking about public Wi-Fi networks that are accessible to members of the public. So that's why it was a parks item, because there was the thought of having Wi-Fi in parks. There are a lot of people who are advocating for just free Wi-Fi that's available on open networks to everybody. In terms of seniors, I think it could apply to senior centers, or it could apply to better infrastructure and towers for the community generally. I don't know if that answers your question.
I think so.
Any other thoughts, anybody?
I have a question about the priorities of these 5 items generally.
Okay, I was just wondering what people think about the 5 items, and we need to, other than the one we discussed, the first one, if we want to leave them on, if there are any changes that need to be made. Any additions?
Mary,
Hold on,
go ahead.
hold on, Liz.
On number 4, the transportation one,
Uh-huh,
I would make a small change in the wording. And instead of what it says now, make it increase funding for senior transportation programs, comma, including restoring prior city council funding. And
okay,
the reason for doing that, there is an issue with the Department for the Aging right now on transportation funding
okay,
being reduced. And if anything, that may be a larger issue than the city council funding. Let's just make sure we get them all in there.
okay. That makes sense to me.
Could you repeat the phrase, please, so I get this in the minutes?
Yeah, but before I do that, let me see if there's yet another way. Let me suggest that a little differently. Increase funding for senior transportation programs, comma, including one,
Yeah.
full funding from NYC Aging, 2, restoration of prior city council funding, and 3, expansion of access and outreach.
With all due respect, Richard, when the items are too long, OMB's eyes glaze over. So I would say keeping it short is good. And adding the comma, including, and deleting by, I think accomplishes all of those things that you were getting at without getting too into the weeds.
Okay, then let's do that, but I want NYC Aging specifically listed here. So maybe the middle ground there is increase funding for senior transportation programs, comma, including restoration of NYC Aging and city council funding.
Solid.
You know, and then however we want to include and expanding access and outreach, that can be in there any way it fits.
Okay,
So Mary, I have a question about the ranking of these 5 items with respect to each other. I don't know what the thinking was last year, but I'm looking at how the board ranked these items overall, and it's different than what the committee did. And I think that the board in the aggregate is really on to something. I think that the item that was ranked 3rd last year, increasing expanded in-home services for elderly persons, really ought to be the #1 priority of this committee. And that the transportation item, as it was worded then, and as Richard has suggested to reword it, really ought to be our #2, with those next 3 items ordered. I don't have strong feelings, but I think that the full board in the aggregate was really onto something in terms of priorities, and we maybe want to change our ordering as a committee.
anybody have any objections to that?
Here, fine with Liz's suggestions on #1 and 2.
Uh-huh,
It may be my senior center experience that wants to keep that replacement furnishings thing as high as is reasonable.
As number 3 makes sense to me.
And then let's take 1 minute again. And whoever can explain to me why the funding for free Wi-Fi access, you know, and again, I may have some biases here that I'm not seeing the problems that lots of individuals have out there. But what's really intended in that Wi-Fi access listing?
free part
All over.
for seniors in CB12.
Seniors on 162nd Street, seniors on 165th Street.
So
seniors on
I think a way to make this make more sense in terms of what is it that we're asking and why is it different from Wi-Fi, is to delete the word Wi-Fi and add the word internet.
Okay,
Because I think the issue is, if seniors need free Wi-Fi, they can go to a senior center. They have Wi-Fi and it's free. My guess is that what that item is speaking to is for senior citizens who are in their homes and they need access to the internet. That's not Wi-Fi necessarily. It could be, but it's internet access. So I think saying that we need a funding stream to subsidize internet access for seniors, the word you're looking for is internet, not Wi-Fi. Because Wi-Fi is like how you get to the internet, but the internet is what it is that people need. Does that help, Richard?
I see Mary's lips moving, so let me defer to that first.
I'm sorry, say that.
You looked like you wanted to say something before I did.
Well, I was just gonna say Elizabeth Urena put something in the chat, although she could speak, because she's part of the committee, that for seniors who can go to the senior centers, but for those who cannot, it could be what I say. I'm not sure.
So I do agree with Liz in the point that seniors that need Wi-Fi or internet access, right? Because they can be intertwined or they can be exclusive with each other, can go to senior centers. But then you have a large population of older adults that are not able to physically leave their homes and go to senior centers. And I think that's a large population that it would be impacted by a line item of such. And when referring to internet and Wi-Fi, I believe so many devices have been made available through various programs via federal, city, and state, that accessing the internet, I believe that Wi-Fi is the need. At least in my direct contact with the older adults that we're serving at our center, it's very expensive. And when you speak to someone, you ask them, when you give someone like T-Mobile, like Department of Education made available T-Mobile hotspots for all NYC students that allow them to use Wi-Fi in their homes. So they were able to connect with any device in their home with this hot mobile spot that can pretty much be carried with them anywhere, but it was meant to be used at home in the absence of, being unable to get onto a technology device. So I think that's where Wi-Fi and internet, go, I think.
Let me respond to that and then add a further question. I'm not hearing any disagreement there. Internet, in the ways that Liz, everything that was just said about Wi-Fi being the preeminent form of internet access is correct. But simply using the word internet there does broaden it a little bit for people who might find the access through the phones or any of the other ways you can get internet access. I mean, we can totally add a couple words, but basically I didn't hear any serious disagreement there.
I think the other advantage to changing the word, just take out Wi-Fi and add internet, it not only broadens what it is we're getting at, it also eliminates the possibility or reduces the possibility of OMB saying, oh, this isn't an expense, this is capital. If you say we want free internet, OMB is going to be like, that's a capital. We want free Wi-Fi. OMB is going to say that's a capital project and just ding it right away. If you say we want free internet, that there are a bunch of ways of accomplishing free internet, one of which is Wi-Fi, but there are others. And then it's much more clearly an expense project, an expense program, not a capital project.
Okay, so it sounds like there's agreement to change that wording
Before
and
we,
leave it under expense.
before we finish that,
Yeah.
I heard a couple references to devices and equipment. It's a part of the need. It's right on the line between capital and expense. And I'm just wondering what are some of the different thoughts. I also heard one person speak to the Wi-Fi and internet access being more important, saying that people are getting devices. I think there may be some continuing needs for getting devices out there. And I ask that as a question more than a statement.
Hmm. I don't know. I'm not,
Can we not use both words, internet and Wi-Fi? Call the question.
I mean, that would be internet, comma, including Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Comma. I have no objection to that. Other than Liz's concerns about glazed eyes.
including Wi-Fi. All right.
And the silence I heard there on devices says to me we should just move on to the next issue.
All right, so, so do we want to rank that as number 4 and then the food number 5 or?
Toss up.
Hmm?
Toss up.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay,
Could somebody read out what the new rankings are so I can make sure I have these correct?
that's right. I have them on there. If you,
Oh, okay,
I made my little
okay.
It's 4.
notes on here.
If you're
so I
working
can
from
pick-
that list, James, that list now becomes 4, 5, 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I thank everybody for their input.
You need these documents up or you don't want me to take them down? Do you
Sorry?
need the documents up still? Do you need the screen up still, these?
No,
Okay.
they can come down. Ashley, did you have something you wanted to say? Or am I getting confused by the? It's not. Okay. Future speakers and presentations is next on the agenda. I have an issue that's been an ongoing issue in the CB12 area, and it's specifically in one specific location. And it has to do with something that's been brought to my attention through the Traffic and Transportation Committee, actually, with the M3 bus that runs up St. Nicholas Avenue and used to have stops at 190 going north and at 193. Both of those northbound stops have been eliminated. And the M3 bus now turns at 190 and goes over to Amsterdam and goes up Amsterdam to those stops. Also, in addition to that, I found out when I was in Isabella in rehab, because my friend wanted to get back to my apartment, and she said, "Where does the M3 downtown stop?" And I said to her, "Right in front of the pizza place next to Dunkin' Donut on 190 and St. Nicholas." And guess what? That bus stop going down has been eliminated also. So she had to walk all the way down to 187 to get the downtown bus.
Mary,
So-
was there any posting on that or it just happened?
Huh?
Was there any posting on that or did that just happen?
Only of the elimination of the 193rd. which was in and of itself an issue. Okay. And that was because of the changes that were being made on Amsterdam Avenue due to various and sundry things like having trucks, delivery trucks parked there all night long, you know, day in and day out, and cars speeding and doing donuts and whatever else they do up there and all that. So, needless to say, the people that live in the North buildings on Fort George Hill and on Fairview Avenue, but especially Fort George Hill, having great difficulty navigating the hill to get up to St. Nicholas Avenue, or having to negotiate going down the hill after getting off a bus at 187th Street going north. You can imagine people with walkers, rollators, wheelchairs, etc. It became impossible for them to go anywhere. And I understood that because I have been down and up that hill several times for a variety of reasons, being involved with Isabella all of the years I have been, and having meetings in the North buildings. And my thing, you're going to see, this is very, very much, you know, a me working with those folks that live there, because I have been working with them and knowing them for many, many years. I feel their pain. Okay. I feel their pain, and I'm enraged because this would never, never, never happen on the east side. So I've been working with them, sort of, you know, from my, not just community board side, but my personal side, and got them to come up with a petition and all of that. It was brought to the Traffic and Transportation Committee, and sort of got lost in the shuffle, I think, because, you know, I wasn't able to be at those meetings and I wasn't able to continue to, you know, however, the folks did, you know, as at my suggestion, try to get some of the electeds involved. Okay. So we know that the chair of the Traffic and Transportation Committee works with Espaillat.
No longer.
Huh?
She doesn't work with him any longer.
Oh, no?
No, she's moved on.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I missed that.
she
some-
just left.
But anyway, it was during that time when she was still there that they went to her at my at my suggestion. So she's well aware of the issue anyway. So thing is that we're reinventing the wheel on Traffic and Transportation Committee, but we also talked about inventing the wheel at this committee because it's a senior issue at this point. And okay, let me come off my soapbox and let Richard speak. He has his hand up.
Mary, you're doing all the right things by starting to make this a public issue. And that's pretty much what needs to happen, but just to get the wheels moving in another way, I will move that CB 12 endorse the restoration of the bus stops that were just described at earliest convenience.
Right, and that's going to come up in the
Second that.
I'll second that.
Traffic and Transportation Committee as well.
We
So
could get
we're
to the
gonna,
joint
so
motions
I
and
was
everything.
bringing it
Let's just
up
get
here
in motion.
because we want to work alongside the Traffic and Transportation Committee. I'm on both. I'm the chair of this committee, but I'm also a member of Traffic and Transportation. So what I want to do is try to back up what Traffic and Transportation is going to do at their next meeting.
Yeah. The sense of what I'm saying is negotiate it there, negotiate it at the executive committee, but let's at least get something out of the committee here
Exactly.
today.
Liz.
Yeah, I think that this should also be raised at the district services cabinet meeting, to the extent that there's someone from the MTA at that meeting. You know, we can talk amongst ourselves all we want, but part of the point of the district services cabinet meeting is in the committee meetings where we're raising, you know, issues like this, particular public safety issues, particular issues with whatever agency. The district manager's job, among other things, is to bring those concerns to the agency representatives who cover this board and say, this is a problem. What are you doing about this? So yeah, we can have a resolution, but I don't think we need to wait. That issue is raised in traffic and transportation, and then it's raised at the DSC. I understand if there's like a temporary thing because of construction and something, and it's not safe and whatever, but I think that a lot of the folks who make these sorts of decisions think, hey, you know, it's a couple of blocks, it's not a problem, and they're not looking at it through the lens of what it's like to be pushing a rollator or a stroller for that matter.
Right.
And trying to negotiate this. And as soon as it's raised in a meaningful way that unpacks why this is a problem, they kind of go, oh, right.
Agreed.
Is she frozen?
So,
Yeah,
Oh,
thank you.
So I will speak to Ebenezer about bringing this up at the district service cabinet meeting.
It's all. of the
Trying to
above till we
figure out,
how
you
it
know,
works.
we have the Waikoa meeting that same day as the district service cabinet meeting, and I used to go to the cabinet meeting all the time. But, you know, that's when our general meeting is for Waikoa, and I'm co-chair. But I may bow out on this next meeting and try to go myself, because I just have such a vested interest. I mean, you know.
Well, I think that if you have a strong conversation with Ebenezer, I think
Yeah.
he's going to understand what the issue is. And if you make sure it's on his agenda, he, I think, is capable of representing that to the MTA. And if there's somebody, perhaps your assistant chair, who is able to attend the DSC, or another member of this committee who's able to attend the DSC and advocate for that, that would be great.
Okay, so I will consider that, and I'll talk to Ebenezer, because I know I can make him understand how important it is to everybody. And again, it's not just the North buildings, okay? You've got the Isabella people too, not just, you know, you've got the employees, you've got the visitors. You know, the visitors that go to Isabella to visit people are not all young people to visit their elderly relatives, their spouses, their, you know, friends, their whoever's. So it's the same issue to get up there. Okay. So future speakers and presentations. Anybody have any thoughts? Richard, you're always good at coming up with some
Mary,
suggestions.
has
Yes.
the committee done anything recently on elder abuse issues?
No.
There's a piece I've just been learning about, that there's often it's getting the name elder justice rather than elder abuse. And there's a citywide network, I believe Department for the Aging funded, of elder justice programs and network. I haven't dealt with the one that covers this area, that covers the CB12 area, but I can get you the contact on that. And it
Okay.
would be someone at the organization in the Bronx called Neighborhood Shop. And I'm glad to try to get you that contact and then you have whatever conversation with them fits.
Thank you. Anyone else? Have any thoughts? Okay, if anything comes up, you know my email, and if you don't, you should. I think everybody on here has my email, actually.
I missed the Presbyterian presentation on COVID at the beginning. Is there anything that's a logical follow-up to that? Is there anything that's a logical follow-up to that that might be a next step on how we help educate the community around current COVID impacts and trends? I don't have an answer to my question. It's a question.
Got it. I don't know. I have to think about it. Elder Justice Program. There we go. We have somebody on.
That's it. Neighborhood shop. That's the connection you want to make.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out how to. Okay. So I
Copy
get
it,
that
Mary,
down. Okay.
if you need back.
Is that that?
It looks right to me.
Stop with 2 Ps.
Yes. Okay, does anybody have any announcements? Hearing none. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, November 2nd at 10:30 a.m. And we are adjourning this meeting right on time at 11:58 a.m.
Love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. I
Thank you.
love the attendance today. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Okay,
All right.
stay well.
See you next month.
Liz, happy travels.
Thank you. Thank you.
Keep your posts coming.
You bet. Talk
Love
soon.
all the pics.
Thanks.
All right, talk to you all soon.
Thank you.